Constituents are anxious about the election, especially for many of us for whom reproductive rights is deeply personal. There's really a sense of foreboding that this could decide whether or not we have rights, even in a state like California, because a federal abortion ban really could override all of our protections here in California. And I've been traveling across the country on behalf of the Harris-Walz campaign, talking in particular to young people and to women in states like Michigan and New Hampshire, Nevada. And a lot of what I'm hearing is young people really understanding the stakes of this election and really understanding that it's important to make their voice heard because their rights really are on the line.
How precarious is democracy in the United States right now?
We're really at an important moment. And what happens over the next 30 or so days could really be determinative in how our country moves forward. My background's actually in conflict, in post-coup transitions, in electoral violence, and so I know that this is a really critical and a really fragile time for our country. And one of the most important things will be making sure that all of us make our voices heard and that we all understand we have agency and that there are things we can do to make sure that we preserve our democracy, and a big part of that is voting in this upcoming election.
You were a freshly sworn in Congresswoman on January 6, 2021. You were at the Capitol building. What was that day like for you?
So I was in the gallery overlooking the House floor, and I just remember when the Capitol Police came out and said, you know, there's tear gas in the rotunda, take out the gas masks from under your seats. I didn't even know there were gas masks under our seats. Eventually, we were hiding under the seats. It was my fourth day. I was literally still introducing myself to my colleagues. We could hear in the wall behind us the crowd sort of rushing in, the mob, and I later learned it was only 30 seconds from when I was pulled across a hallway to when the insurrectionists got there. And I will say, in all of my time and experience working around the world in conflict situations, this is the closest I ever felt to feeling like this might be the end.
Do you anticipate similar violence this time around?
I'm really concerned about what former President Trump might try and do this time around. And one of the things I'm incredibly concerned about is the role of the House, because we know that Mike Johnson, the current Speaker of the House, the New York Times called him the architect of the effort to overturn the election in 2020. And so I'm very concerned if we don't win back the House this election, what might happen with Mike Johnson at the helm and what he might do to try and install Donald Trump even against the will of the people.
Turning our attention to foreign policy briefly, you sit on the House Foreign Relations Committee. What are the prospects for a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas at this point?
Secretary Blinken is in the region at this moment trying to get a ceasefire. I think that there talks are ongoing. I won't say that we're close or it's easy, but I do think we have a window of opportunity here, and I think it's time. It's time. Israel has achieved any sort of military objectives it said it wants to achieve, and it's time to have a deal to get humanitarian assistance into Gaza, to end the fighting, and to bring the hostages home.
You skipped Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu's joint address to Congress back in June, citing the Palestinian death toll of around 39,000 at the time. I think it's about 42,000 now. And you said that Israel's military response to the October 7th attack by Hamas had not been proportional, strategic, or effective, and that you could not, therefore, in good conscience, attend the speech. You faced accusations from members of the Jewish community that you were not sufficiently pro-Israel. How did that criticism land with you?
So I'm Jewish. I have close family who lives in Israel, my aunt, uncle, and cousin. So this issue is deeply, deeply personal to me, and I've traveled all around Israel. I've been to the West Bank, I've been to Gaza, and the safety and security of Israel is something I care a lot about, and it's why I feel so strongly that the way Netanyahu has responded to October 7th hasn't actually made Israel any safer. And so, you know, of course, it's always hurts when especially people in your own community question your motives or, you know, don't agree with you. Everyone's not going to agree with me all the time, but I still feel very strongly that the way Netanyahu has led Israel is not actually making Israel any safer. And what will make Israel safer is finding a path to get a two-state solution so that Palestinians have autonomy and dignity. And in this case, that means making sure that Palestinians have a state where they get a say in their future.
Congresswoman Jacobs, thank you so much for speaking with me today.
Of course. Thank you for having me.